Dzień dobry Państwu. Znajdujemy się właśnie na półmetku pierwszego dnia konferencji GPW Innovation Day All Stars Summit. Przed nami jeszcze 3 spotkania ze spółkami, a pierwszą z nich jest firma CI Games. Bardzo się cieszę, że spółka przyjęła nasze zaproszenie na konferencję. Jest ona bowiem jedynym reprezentantem branży game dev podczas naszej konferencji. Warto dodać, że spółka CI Games, dawniej City Interactive, była pierwszym podmiotem, który zadebiutował na polskim rynku kapitałowym jako spółka z tej branży. Ze mną jest obecny Marek Tymiński, prezes zarówno 17 lat temu, jak i obecnie, oraz Senior Vice President of Development Tom O'Connor. Dla Państwa informacji, prezentacja zostanie przeprowadzona w języku angielskim, natomiast pytania można zadawać zarówno w języku polskim, angielskim. My będziemy je tłumaczyć na język angielski, tak żeby były zrozumiałe zarówno dla pana Marka, jak i dla pana Toma. Z mojej strony to wszystko. Prezentacja będzie podzielona na 2 części. Pierwsza to prezentacja, druga to sekcja pytań i odpowiedzi. Zachęcam do aktywnego uczestnictwa i życzę Państwu udanego odbioru. Panie prezesie, przekazuję głos.
Thank you very much and welcome everyone today. Obviously, Tom is not speaking Polish, and we decided to have the whole presentation in English. Very much in brief, CI Games, we announced the new strategy several weeks ago, and it's based on 3 pillars. Starts with a strong financial position following first half 24, strengthen our business, and develop a clear strategy to drive sustainable returns in the future, with 3 major releases starting in 2026. This is a very similar presentation to what we had after first half 2024, so we will go rather briefly through the presentation to leave as much time as we can for potential questions. First half results, so net revenue up by 162%, EBITDA up to 38 million Polish zlotys, and net cash flow minus 19. We repaid loans. We have a major investment from Epic Games. Epic is a developer and publisher of Fortnite. This is probably the most popular game currently in the world. They have PC exclusive rights for Project 3, so next installment in Lords of the Fallen universe, and became our close partner on that one. And obviously we also close our restructuring in terms of how the company is structured from the standpoint of development, business as it is, and having the right talent to execute the strategy. Let's keep that. And this leads to a strategy update and product roadmap for the next 4 years. Before we get into that, just a reminder who we are. So we are a company founded in 2002, publicly listed on Warsaw Stock Exchange 2007. Top-rated AAA and AA plus developer, with established track record in action shooters, RPG games. 2 major evergreen franchises. This is obviously Lords of the Fallen that we released last year, the latest installment, and Sniper Ghost Warrior. Critically acclaimed, 3 financially successful third-party IPs across United Label. Currently, on all our main projects are run on Unreal Engine 5 as a technology. Very, very experienced leadership team, but also very experienced talent, employees across development and beyond. Best in class, not just in development, like I said, but we very particular in terms of who we hire and how we run, and what our culture is. In simple terms, it's a culture of best talent. and strong historical margins. In a new strategy, obviously on one side we have a product roadmap with 3 major releases starting 2026. We have a very clear point on being absolutely player first in our approach and absolutely efficient in game development, and that is backed by financing of that business in the most efficient and effective way going forward. The focus plan across 3 major releases. So it starts with Project 3, that is the next installment of our Lords of the Fallen franchise. That has a target release in 2026, and so far we are absolutely on track with that game in terms of production. Project Sniper Ghost Warrior Evolved, that's the next installment in Sniper Ghost Warrior franchise. Soon we will have announcements about that. So we have certain progress in developing the next Sniper Ghost Warrior, but again, we will be announcing soon more details on that project. And the target release for this game is 2027. And we also working on Project H. This is relatively a small team right now. It's around 20 plus people. This is the next action RPG game in a highly commercial fantasy genre. We'll get into the full production sometime in 2026. And ahead of that, it has a very methodical, very detailed and efficient, same time, pre-production focused plan leading to a very strong vertical slice. The secondary focus, obviously, United Label. We recently signed several titles on our indie brand indie company. Project Potential, this is ongoing, as we announced previously, the same as Project Expand. So on one side, we see potentially interesting IPs that we can license for our internal projects, and at the same time, we definitely want to expand our IPs beyond video games into different formats, including TV and films. This is, what we do and how we do that. I think, Tom, if you can take it from here and just explain a bit more and add a bit more color on all the part that is really operational development focus and product focus, please.
Sure, yeah. As Marek kind of mentioned, one of our key kind of like strategy here is to leverage our existing IP, that IP that we've invested in over the years, and it's got really strong foundations. So that begins with Lords of the Fallen. We released the game in 2023. We learned a lot from that release, and we're building all those learnings into our development pipeline to make a much stronger proposition for the future with Project 3. And then recognizing that Sniper Ghost Warrior, it's a successful franchise. It's got a really kind of committed audience out there, and we think we can evolve that IP even further, to stay to like the loyal fans, but also to reach new audiences as well. So we're going to be building on that IP with some new features and focus, and then building on what Marek said with regards to Project H, being super efficient by utilizing all of the expertise and architecture from Lords of the Fallen, but also, creating something which we believe can potentially, be really kind of disruptive to the genre and really kind of, give us breakout potential with an all new IP with Project H. Across all of these projects, we have a very collaborative approach where we're always learning from each other, with the studios working together, reducing duplication of effort, making sure that we capitalize on our investments, our historic investment, but also, our current investment with these products, making sure that we all learn from each other and make the best games possible. We go on to the next slide. And again, in terms of expanding our addressable market, we recognize that making our games appealing to as big an audience as possible is the way we need to go for all of our products to really unlock that audience growth. So building on our established fan bases with established IP, as I mentioned, utilizing existing architecture and, building on our brand awareness to date, and, prioritizing future marketing investments in expanding on that audience. We know that we know that there's huge potential in the genres that we're going into. We look at the resurgence of single player action adventure fantasy games in the last couple of years. Titles such as Black Myth, Wukong, Space Marine 2, Stellar Blade, Lies of P. These are all high quality games that are achieving critical acclaim and commercial success. And with our experience to date, we believe that this is an area that we can really excel in. In terms of the approach, it's really key that we have players at the center of our strategy. So understanding what our audience likes and dislikes are, their motivations are, building that data into our pipeline to ensure that we're reaching that target audience and we're going as broad as possible. And that starts right at the beginning, from the initial concept and the appeal of that right through to when players get hands-on and, validating that before we release to market. So building on our experience of launching Lords of the Fallen, in terms of that was a key driver for change at CI. Launching a game at that scale across multiple platforms is a huge achievement for development and publishing. But there are obviously a number of areas where we could do a lot better for the future, and these are areas that we're doubling down on now. Making sure that our thematic and those gameplay mechanics are really kind of appealing to a wide audience. And focusing on quality over quantity, really doubling down on that moment-to-moment experience, making sure that the games are just a lot of fun to play, really easy to onboard, kind of easy to get into the game, difficult to master, we kind of like to say, making sure that we appeal to as many players as possible. We're utilising Unreal Engine across all of our games, which is now a much more mature platform to build on. We have a really good relationship with Epic, as Marek mentioned, which is benefiting us across all platforms, essentially, with us using Unreal across all. Big push to really drive those 80+ user scores. Like, our user scores and user sentiments are really important to us, and by having an iterative development approach where we constantly test and we learn and we improve, means that we've got a much better chance of achieving those higher scores for the future. And being super efficient with our marketing strategy moving forwards, building on the investments to date and being much more streamlined with targeted marketing campaigns. In terms of how we're now setting up how me and my team basically oversee the multiple studios. We have a development management and support office, which I oversee, which includes some other key talent within my group, such as creative direction support, production, publishing support. And pulling all this together now into a single group means that we're all working much more closely together and gives us a much better chance of really kind of having that breakout high quality game, multiple games for the future. Building that product validation and optimization into the strategy, into the pipelines, which have already started and has shown good success already. Pushing the quality, efficiency, being more predictable, knowing exactly where our game's going to land in terms of its commercial kind of success and that, user sentiment, by having these multiple tests during production. And again, as I mentioned previously, all working together, meeting regularly, evaluating each other's products and being super efficient, having that, really strong cross-studio mindset and collaboration efforts across the business. So overall, we've got a simplified structure with our development management approach across all of the studios. where I'll be overseeing all game production across all projects, and all of the studio heads reporting to me as well. So we've got a much closer visibility and collaboration moving forwards. Also, I'm responsible for all of the support services such as QA, localization, release management, etc. So again, all working closely together. Also, as well, we're being super efficient in terms of how we move resource across projects. So an example, as Lords of the Fallen Next Game Project 3 releases in 26, as we start to offboard resources from that project, they'll migrate onto Project H. And that's just one example to ensure that we're maximizing, utilization of talent. It's not just a numbers game, it's also making sure that people move between projects and bring their expertise to those projects so we have greater success. And then, just touching back on, a much more streamlined and smarter marketing approach moving forwards to make sure that we get, a lot more for our money, basically, in terms of our marketing campaigns. So we talk about players first, and this is really key. And this gives us an overview of how that actually would map against the project. So you can see that we've got multiple gates during development. These are on top of our usual milestone plans as well. And these gates signify major validation steps in our project development lifecycle. And at each of these gates, we're bringing in experts, both internal and external. We're bringing in players, we're testing the games, we're getting data to feedback on the game and highlight areas for improvement, etc. go forwards. And this is a loop of basically constant evaluation and iteration across multiple steps. And the different tools we use include consumer insights, market appeal testing. We benchmark against best-in-class games in the genre. And we also will look at doing open and closed beta testing where that actually is applicable for the game. Overall, when we can be reaching a broader market, minimizing those friction points to ensure that the player's experience is great from the minute they start playing the game right through to the end, with much better onboarding and ultimately driving those higher user review scores. Mark, do you want to pick back up on this slide?
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. I think this is really important to understand that this strategy has implication on the quality of our games, our products going forward. And basically, as you clearly stated, it's a player-first approach, validation, making sure that when we're launching the game, any new game, the game is absolutely in a sweet spot for the audience, and then maximizing the size of that audience every single time. But also means that we will be more efficient in terms of how we bring those games to the market, how we develop them, and how we develop them basically. And it's a streamlined team. It's a new operating model, and talent sharing driving greater efficiency. Talent sharing, just to add a bit more color, we see ourselves as as a bigger and bigger developer, and we see absolutely a need to share our talent. So basically, let developers working on one project move into another project, potentially under different internal studios. So people coming from Hex to Underdog. Because, it's great to be able to see these people contributing and using their expertise and knowledge to the next project, and at the same time allowing those people to really work on various different projects and not just continuing with the same franchise over and over again. So works both hands. And lower marketing spends. This is more targeted campaigns, and with all the lessons we have from even last year, mostly last year launch, we see that we can achieve a lot by spending, I would say, probably several times less than we spent in the past on, say, also the Fallen 23 launch. That should have a very strong impact on our financials and our bottom line, and in each P&L for each game. The financing for the next pre-releases, obviously that's operating cash flow. It's a recent Epic investment on Project 3, but also exploring other potential co-publishing partnerships and first-party exclusives. And it's also a line of credit with current bank and current facility, but we have plans to soon to really expand the line of credit to basically be as much independent and going forward and as least dependable on potential publishing deals or further publishing deals. However, we are absolutely very happy from Epic agreement that we signed several months ago. It's not just the financial part, but it's way beyond that, including how much support we can get and we are getting from Epic, and how that can contribute to deliver even better game at the end of the day to the market. As a summary, it's a solid platform and refreshed strategy around experienced leadership and best-in-class talent, streamlined structure, focus on our core IPs and expanding our IPs, absolute player-first development approach that will lead to increased quality and, as Tom said, predictability across the production and across publishing and commercial side of the business. Smarter, more targeted marketing campaign, and data-driven insights to improve appeal and audience accessibility. This is for the presentation. Thank you very much, and we are looking forward to questions.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Tom, for your presentation. And as you said, we can jump directly into the Q&A session. We have already a few questions, so we can start chronologically. First question, what do you think about current maturity of Unreal Engine 5? Is the tools and knowledge among the developers sufficient to create big worlds attractive for players?
So if I can start, but that's really a question to Tom. I know this is very different than it was a year ago. It's definitely way more stable, much better than a year ago. Tom, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Unreal as an engine, it's the #1 platform for game development worldwide, right? For these types of games, high quality games. I think the tools are now much more mature than they ever were, and also the expertise across the industry, the talent we have in house. Like, you know, they've all basically been working with Unreal for, you know, a number of years. And yeah, we're really confident that we can actually deliver great products through Unreal. And also, just touching back on our relationship with Epic, you know, we're receiving excellent level of support directly from Epic, and this is really helping us to, you know, succeed even further. So yeah, I'm really positive.
Thank you. The next question, give us more color about game dev industry condition. Are there more risks or opportunities at this moment on the market from CI Games perspective?
Okay, this is obviously a very good question. I think CI Games is one of very few companies coming from Poland. I mean, we founded in Poland and we're coming from Poland. Currently, the company is probably more than 80% of our staff. Yeah, it is more than 80% of our staff is international, and only probably 15%, 15, employees are in Poland. But we're still considering ourselves a company that was founded and is coming from Poland. But, you know, we are just probably one of few companies that have been able to bring that complex and that larger games to the global markets, right? I would say probably it's just that, or less of companies who effectively made and became really to a degree at least commercially successful. I think the industry is, and as we all know, right, we've seen a lot of studio closures and a lot of layoffs. Pretty much most of the publishers, big, mid-size, they all went through the rounds of layoffs. We see that when COVID, at the time of COVID start, there've been a lot of investment into video games, and a lot of those investments from private equities or venture capitalists. A lot of them, they were not the best investments. They were wrong investments, and that created more products, more market to be more saturated, that we also experienced last year when we launched Lords of the Fallen. But also that created a lot of failures. That comes on the side or on top of problems that pretty much most of the big publishers had, and as you've seen in the last 2 years, a lot of those layoffs, a lot of studio closures. I read recently 20% of European employees in this industry were laid off in the last 2 years. So that's big scale, 20% of all employees in the industry being laid off, big scale. And I think it's a very difficult industry. We've been there for 20 years, and we recreated ourselves in the last 5 years. We had a huge turnaround of the business, coming from being predominantly mostly Polish-based company to being a truly global organization, hiring the best talent available on any given position, and developing really complex video games at that AAA, AA+ level. And I think us as a company, we are in the best position we ever been, in the best shape and form we ever been as a company. And but again, this is a difficult industry, and as you see, a lot of investors in Poland experience that, especially with smaller developers, smaller projects. It's way more risky than it used to be, and you definitely see a lot of failures with coming from a lot of studios that had good talent and good intentions, but it didn't work out. I think the industry is maturing and will further consolidate. And I really think we are in the best form we ever been as a company. And we know we have not really reached of what the market expected and what we expected last year from Lords of the Fallen, but I think we're definitely ready for the next big step coming with Lords, the next Lords, as we call it, Project 3, and the next projects beyond that, according to our strategy.
Thank you. Next question. Currently, how important is to have large presence at the biggest game dev conferences like Gamescom? Is that a must-have for a AAA or a AA+ games in the year of premiere? I remember as I was attending the Gamescom last year, and I remember that waiting line to your booth was like for 4 to 5 hours. I didn't manage to get into, but the hype was really, really big. And the question is, how events like Gamescom create this, and is this really worth the price?
It's a good question. Again, here I think that there's no one answer. I think it really depends if this is a sensible part of your marketing strategy. I can definitely see very successful games that will have presence. You have games being there and companies as well, but I can definitely see very successful video games that will have presence over those shows, and I can definitely see very successful games that will not have the presence. I think we've been always there in terms of company, in terms of people. Our top management, especially on the commercial marketing side, has been around over those shows, whether we have a booth, we have a stand, or we don't have a stand. But it's really down to the marketing. I think it did well for us with Lords of the Fallen last year, but I don't really have an answer yet whether we'll be part of any of a show like that next year or in 2026.
Thank you. Next question about Sniper Ghost Warrior. New Sniper Ghost Warrior game. You're looking for evolution or revolution in terms of differences to the previous installments of this franchise?
I think it's evolution, because we clearly know what worked well. We have quite a lot of data on fans, communities, people played that game, and we also have data and understanding based on that data what the audiences would like to see added. So it's more evolution than revolution, but the evolution will rather be quite significant.
Okay, thank you. Next question. How you approach to sharing the talents and knowledge among your teams as they work in many different areas? How do you adapt to the remote system?
That's a question to Tom.
Sure. I'd say what's great about CI is that we are fully remote. So, in some companies where you have a hybrid model, I personally find that potentially problematic. When you've got a fully remote company where everybody is using, the same tools, the same systems, the same way to interact with each other, it's much more efficient. The fact that we have people all over means that we attract the best talent. Because we're not limited to specific locations. And, in terms of all the tools that we use and the collaboration that we have day to day, it works really well. When needed, we will get together and meet up. And, that's part of our plan as well. But overall, sharing across teams is not a problem at all, because everyone's just used to kind of working in that way.
Okay, good answer. Thank you. And the last question I see is more like Warsaw Stock Exchange question. Would the company consider obtaining financing from Warsaw Stock Exchange if needed?
So we do not plan capital raise, if I understood the question correctly right now. We had that in plans and we called that back. We basically said no. Part of that was having Epic agreement, and as we clearly detailed recently, Epic agreement brought more investment than the capital raise would bring at the time, and we do not plan that right now. We're planning to finance our business through different types of loan, starting with the line of credit with the bank or investment line of credit from banks, and we are in talks to the banks. We have a very solid relationship with PKO BP. That relationship started a long time ago, I think back in 2015 with that bank, and they saying that they understand the industry thanks to that much better, and they're feeling capable to really deeply understand the industry. They know the company very well. We obviously can be in talks with other banks, but it's a good partner. We had the financing with them in the last years. We have a relatively small line of credit now, and this is the way we want to expand. But it's either this or different types of loans. That's how we want to finance the business, and we want to absolutely avoid capital raise.
Understood. I don't see more questions right now, so I think this will conclude our meeting. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Tom, for your time and for your presentation. And we keep our fingers crossed for your further development. And privately, me as a gamer, I wait for the next great games, and I will be looking into the new installments to your franchises.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
To be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.